We all have a plan for our life. I'm going to Spelman. I'm gonna get my undergrad's debt, and I'm gonna go to Harvard Law, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be married by 28. I'm gonna have 4 kids, and I'm gonna make a ton of money. That's a great game plan. It sounds good in the locker room until you get pregnant at 19, right? Or knock on wood, something fatal happens to a family member, or all of a sudden you become the family leader at 20, 21 years old, and you're not ready yet, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that this is going. We still got to score a touchdown. It just looks different now. And I think a lot of families financially, if that's the approach, I think a lot of this kind of shakes out for the better. And that's my job to kind of help them think through what's available, what's possible, and how we call audibles to make sure that no matter what happens in life, whatever circumstantial changes take place, it's still a roadmap to get to where you want to get to.
Hello, hello, hello. We are back again at Trigger Day After Podcast. Y'all already know if you've listened to any conversation you have ever had, especially one with a guest, then you know we are always willing to not only ask the tough questions and get all in their business, but we also want to make sure that we are providing you with tools that you can use to grow and to create and build lives that feel as good as they look. Am I right, Danny?
That is right. We always want to make sure that we are giving you the actual steps and things to do. We don't want to just come on here and vent and tell everybody our business. We want you to walk away with something that is applicable, okay? Because knowledge is nothing without application. So that's what we're all about. And we just want to always thank you guys for rocking with us and rolling with us and making sure that you're holding us accountable as well in them DMs, because y'all be in our DMs, Joe.
Absolutely. And today's conversation is one that honestly terrifies people more than anything. It's about finance. I know. Do not log off. But we have a playbook for everything else. But it doesn't seem that more than enough of us have a playbook for not only what is happening with our money, what we wanted to do, where we wanted to go. Because if you do not have a plan, you plan to fail. So we have Isiah Williams. He is joining us in our virtual studio here. Don't worry, you can still hop on YouTube and see us if you want to. Go on head on over there, subscribe, and then send it to a couple of your friends to subscribe as well. But this conversation we are having with Isiah Williams, how are you?
I am lovely. How are you guys on today?
Welcome to the Triggered AF podcast. Thank you in advance for your time and all the wealth of knowledge that you will be sharing with us today. We are so excited, but we first have to initiate you.
Yes, because you're not official until you've been initiated.
Right.
We have to. You play football, so you know initiation is important. Okay.
I'm used to some level of social hazing, so it's all good.
Okay. So the only question that we ask all of our guests is, outside of all the titles and accolades and accomplishments, who do you say that you are?
I think it's very simple. I am a very human first oriented person. I think in the world that we live in today, I think a lot of it is a bunch of numbers, a bunch of titles, a bunch of just sort of surface level things. But at the end of the day, for me, I have, I guess, gift and the curse of actually seeing the human in people, and regardless of what it is, right? So whether you talk about dealing with tough situations, whether you talk about being over celebrated, I have this tendency to see the person, to still see the human side of most people. So I am much guilty of that than most. Even in the simplest manner, like dealing with children, right? Obviously, if you tell the kids wash the dishes, I see the human side of them not washing the dishes for whatever reason, right? So
That's nice. I love that for
parent,
you.
right? Yeah, even as a parent, like you try to discipline your children in a way that they'll get it, but I
Yeah.
can't help myself but see the human nature in some of the decisions that they make. So call me soft, call me too lenient, but that's just me in a nutshell.
Oh, so he's a gentle parent. That's what that sounds like, Alicia. Your favorite.
I would say I'm the fun parent.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
That's what the gentle parents like to call themselves, the fun ones.
Mhm. It's a no for me, dog. No gentle parents because these children are not gentle. So
I get that too.
these are not gentle children. But no, I do see there is so much value in remaining human centered and human focused, especially now, because especially living in a capitalistic society. I don't know where in the world you are listening to us. We have listeners in over 26 different countries, but in America, it's real capitalistic. And many times you don't see the human because you see the number or what you could benefit from them. And so it makes me think of, you were at first, speaking of someone seeing you as a number, no disrespect to the game. However, you went from being Juice, the quarterback, to building your identity as now Isiah, the businessman. And so that means, especially in business, that many times you may not be able to see the human first because you do kind of have to see the number too when it comes to ensuring that you can pay employees and bring on really good talent. So what would you say has been the hardest part of letting go of who maybe you thought you'd be, and then what did it take to fully step into who you are now?
Yeah, good question. So I think it's a combination of a couple of things, and those things have everything to do with the different stages I was in. Being closer to the football player, I think the physical and sort of the emotional attachment to that game was hard to let go. Things simple as just having a schedule every day. Like in football, you literally have every hour mapped out, right? So to go from that to you can pretty much do whatever you want to do, right? That's a tough transition, right? Because now we start dealing with different purpose and like what I'm supposed to do, where I'm supposed to be. So the time management component of it is unique too. But then also the emotional impact. For me, football was not only fun because I was good at it, but it was also like an outlet, right? It was a way for me to go and be competitive in a healthy way, for me to be aggressive in a healthy way, and then for me to also go and be thoughtful, strategic, creative, right? You strip that away from someone who depends on it, that can be tough. So during that time, fresh out of college, right, that is an emotional, physical impact that you have to let it go. And fast forward years later, when you do kind of strip away, you let that piece of your life go. Now the new hurdle becomes like the identity, what other people see you as. For most people, I was always just a football player, and they connect that with me being able to throw a football and play, run around, get tackled, stuff like that. So it's unwinding what most people thought about me as this kid and look at me at what I am now. So the businessman, the thoughtful, corporate side of what I do, that was a challenge initially because I wanted to convert right away. I wanted to be the businessman everyone saw, right? I wanted to be the guy instead of wearing suits. I mean, instead of wearing sweats, I'm wearing suits now, right? And I wanted people to acknowledge that right away. It didn't quite go as quickly because, lucky for me, the dynamic that I had as a football player was so great. People just connected with that. Like even to this day, and I know we've talked offline about this, I still get more reactions and compliments and comments from the football stuff that I post than the business stuff that I post, right? And it's just the nature of my story. But I've learned to allow that Juice, the football player, I'm okay with allowing him to get the meetings or get the attention or capture the audience, and then I've learned to pivot the conversation to talk business or whatever it is that we need to discuss in those moments. So um, those things are still relevant. It's just how I sort of approach them now. There's still hurdles, there's still obstacles, if you will. But it's not the same as my emotional attachment at 21, 22, 23 years old. I don't get offended when people attach me to the football player, in a professional sense. I just look at both of those as an opportunity to continue to sharpen the toolkit.
Yeah, so kind of like it's the carrot that's chocolate covered. So it's still a carrot,
Okay.
but it's just
Exactly.
chocolate covered. So
Yeah,
juice is the chocolate, and that carrot is the businessman. Okay.
correct. Correct.
Okay, I see you.
I'm actually use that analogy in a different way. I want to do
You're
that.
welcome.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Well, I know for a lot of athletes, it can be really difficult to make that transition. And we've seen so many um, football players, especially as of late, open up about like their depression and the disappointment when football doesn't go as planned. And you talked about like, when you were in your 20s, you were so attached to that identity. So if you could go back and sit with yourself in 2010 and sit with young Juice what would you whisper to that version of you in the middle of times when you did start feeling depressed or feeling disappointment or feeling like you weren't enough or feeling like there wasn't really much for you outside of football? Because I have really been admiring the football players that have been coming out, just being transparent about what it means, to kind of make that transition and kind of reinvent yourself when you're trying to kind of find your way after the fact.
Yeah. So I think a lot of athletes struggle with that transition because to get to that level, I mean, there's a certain level of time sacrifice that goes into being a professional athlete. You just
Yeah.
don't wake up because you can run fast, or you can catch a football, or you can box, whatever it is. Like there is a natural or consistent sort of exercise of doing your craft, and
Yeah.
that typically starts when you're very young, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. For me, I started playing football when I was 8. So
Wow.
to do a sport for 15 years, every day, all day, that becomes your identity, regardless of what else you have going on, regardless of family, regardless of religion, regardless of what you do academically. You tend to gravitate to the thing that you spend the most brain power on. Right? And for most athletes, it's sports. Just about every athlete will go through that. The athletes that get hit the hardest, unfortunately, are the ones who have financial struggles on top of that. So now all of a sudden, I am dealing with identity of who I am because, again, the time management. I don't have anyone telling me what to do every day, all day. I'm not on someone else's schedule.
Mhm.
Who am I now? Like, what do I do with my time? What do I do with what I have going on a day-to-day basis? Like, what is my new identity? What is my purpose? And a lot of guys don't have that sort of next assignment for their life right away because most sports, you don't know when the end is there, right? Everyone don't have a Tom Brady career where you know exactly when it's over with, right? You play for 21, 22 years and you decide to step away. Most times you get cut, sometimes you get hurt, sometimes you just age out and you weren't ready to be done with it, but the game was done with you. So that transition isn't prepared for. So most athletes, a high volume of athletes, have that as a thing already. You throw in a money crisis on top of it, it's like a double tap. So I don't have purpose. I don't have a sense of direction, and I'm effectively, most people call it broke, but I'm like financially insufficient. That's a level of pain and darkness that most people aren't ready for, right? So, um, to answer your question, that transition is a part of the sport. Whatever it is you do, that transition to the next phase of your life is very much a part of it. I don't think I'm a rare situation or a rare case playing at such a high level and being, disappointed within the game because I didn't get the career that I wanted. It's not a rare situation. Like that is just a natural progression of in most situations that transition needs to happen. So me talking to the younger version of myself, it's like, yo, sink into whatever you need to sink into right now, but don't let it consume you forever. Like take the time you need to undo what you love, just as much as you love your mother, right? The thing that you love almost as much. Take the time to miss it and transition away from it. But it will be time to move on, and you leverage it as much as you can because football, basketball, track, whatever it is, it's a platform to help you get to the next phase of your life. So just like you, for me, going out there throwing all those touchdowns and being in tip-top shape, that transition away from the sport is just as impactful as you get into the sport initially.
Yeah, and you have so many transferable skills from, like you said, the discipline, the understanding the monotony of routine. Like those are things that literally like are pillars for multimillionaires, billionaires. Like having that skill set in athleticism and in pursuing sports, there's so many just really great things that you can adapt to another type of thing. Is as if no one tells you that, or you feel like that's all it's good for, you'll
Yeah,
never know that this is actually like training ground, not just for maybe the NFL or the NBA or whatever pro league, but for
Yeah.
something just even bigger. You just already have a head start as opposed to being set back from, maybe not panning out the way you thought.
100%.
Yeah. Because
And
you're
I think
disciplined.
But I think that's the next phase of that progression of letting it go, the emotional turmoil. The next
Mhm.
phase is like, all right, let's take what I've done and not let it go to waste. I have been able to understand time management. I have been able to multitask. I do work well with teammates. I am persistent. I can see short term and long term goals and go chase it relentlessly. Like I am determined. I am mission focused. Those are all transferable skills that we don't know we have. A lot of us is just one track. This is what I got to do, but not really realize it. It's a skill that you're developing that's going to help you in tremendous ways. Not only just as an athlete, but as a father, as a businesswoman, businessman, as a leader, as an activist, or whatever it is you want to do in life. Like those skills transfer well. That's why a lot of athletes, they're highly sought after by some of these corporations when they hit the job market. All we have to do is just put our resume, organize our resume in a way that's going to stand out a bit. But the moment you get into these rooms, like some of the decision makers, they can't wait to meet with you because you have all of the skills that they want to be a part of their team because you're already used to it.
Mm. Yeah, that I will say is one thing that I wish there was more emphasis on. Like, hey, nothing is ever lost, everything is gained. And being able to be disciplined in spite of your mood, because most people are slaves to not only their habits, but they're slaves to their mood. If I'm not feeling like it that day, I'm not doing anything. But if you are used to playing a sport to where no matter how you feeling, you have to show up and show out, that level of tenacity and resilience and persistence is game changing. But if you don't have anyone who teaches you how to leverage those things, right? Many times folks will turn to things to numb that their desire to do that, right? Because they still want to be disciplined and have that tenaciousness that they are able to move the needle with. And so for you, because it sounds like you really have had such a depth of experiences, especially playing at the level in which you played, what do you think those triggers or those experiences, what did it expose for you? And then for many folks, blaming themselves or even honoring the fact that, yo, hi, it's me, I'm the problem, it's me. Accountability is not really a thing many folks like to honor, acknowledge,
Yeah.
or raise their hand and accept. So, how did you shift with those experiences? How did you shift from playing the victim to then taking ownership of your story?
Yeah. That is such a fantastic question. And I think that conversation needs to happen so much more for these athletes because, like I said, you have to sink in it for a second. But what helped me out needs to be talked about much more with some of these players and other folks that kind of struggles with the identity piece of it. You need help with it. It takes a community. Like, and I think that's why we're all here on Earth to be resources for each other. Like, I don't think we were put here to be isolated in these different bubbles and try to figure this out on. You need help, and we're talking about in my case, 21. Like, what do we know at 21 years old? Like, I don't
A
have work to
baby.
do at 21. We're kids, right? So it's you need help, and you need help from people who's been in this situation, who's lived it, who's on the other side of the hill, whether it's former athletes or someone that's seen other people kind of go through that. You
Mhm.
need help. You need to be able to talk about it. I know it's a frowned upon thing, and particularly in the African American community, counseling, therapy, you have to go through that. And it's not to say anything is wrong with you. Sometimes it's just helpful to have someone unpack your stuff. That someone is going to give you an outside perspective to help you unpack everything about you because it tells a lot. And for
Mhm.
me, when I realized a very simple but impactful thing that was kind of hurting me was like this chase of this hunt for perfection. Like I wanted to be perfect because I was trained to be perfect. And the moment I started to undo that and be vulnerable, it's like, no, I don't know this. Or because I am trying to be perfect, I'm dismissing that opportunity. Or I'm overlooking the relationship that I have over here because I'm chasing perfection. Like
Mhm.
it all started to shift for me. So, in some sense, the thing, football, the thing that saved my life started to take my life from me. And the
Wow.
moment I was able to snap out of that with some help, with additional resources, with friends who cared, that journey got us so much better. It got so much better because I did play victim so long, for a few years. And, looking back, a couple of years of my life was kind of lost in a sense because I'm playing victim on something that was supposed to take place. It was supposed to happen the way it did,
Mhm.
and like I said, the I was trying to carry this thing for so long that it began to start to kill me a bit, right?
Yeah.
So um, it's that is a conversation we can talk 3 4 hours about because it's such a loaded question. That's why I say it's an amazing question. But you need help. You need other people to give you their perspective, and you climb out. You can't climb out of that dark hole alone.
Hey, driver, you're not a part of the community yet? Being in community is the game changer and the cheat code.
And this is more than just a membership. It's your growth circle, accountability hub, and safe space for navigating the messy yet beautiful work of becoming your best self.
And not only will you get exclusive tools, live access, and the support designed to help you transform your triggers, but you'll also get the tools that you need to build new habits that help you to lead with clarity, confidence, and joy.
Time to create lives that feel as good as they look. See you soon, Thrive Tribe. Visit justthrivenow.com. Yeah, and it sounds like there has to be some kind of a shift, right? Like so much of the way we look at things impact our emotions, our responses, our behaviors. That just perspective. Alicia and I talk a lot about just looking at things from different angles. Having a different vantage point is going to show you a very different picture. If I'm on the mountain looking down and you're right in the valley looking straight ahead, we're going to feel like two very different experiences.
Yeah,
So because success looked one way for you, like going to the NFL, winning a Super Bowl, doing all the things I'm sure is what you had in your mind, today it looks like helping families build financial futures, right? That's a very, very big, almost impossible pivot,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
regardless of skill set and experience, like, that is just like those are two different worlds in so many ways. So, how do you feel like your definition of success had to evolve, and what does winning look like, right? Because that's again two different worlds. So what did you have to do? What is your definition now? How did that have to shift for you to embrace your new journey?
Yeah. So I think for me, embracing the new journey is still taking a piece of the previous journey that I've been on my entire life. And
Yeah.
I think for a large part of my life I've been a quarterback. I've been tasked with leading the team. I've been tasked with being creative to designing plays, and I've been tasked with executing those plays constantly, no matter what's going on. Right on the football side, I can have the greatest game plan I could think of. I think the defense is going to do this, so I'm going to do this, or this is our greatest shooter, so we should do this. But that all changes the first play of the game if I twist my ankle, or if my star wide receiver gets hurt, or he's not feeling good, right? Well, we still got to score. We just got to change it up a little bit. I think it's the same thing in finance or in helping people. It's still having some level of impact and still leading, still getting creative, and still executing no matter what. So I believe in that sense, and that's why Audible Wealth is what it's named, right? We all have a plan for our life. I'm going to go to I'm gonna go to Spelman. I'm gonna get my undergrad's there, and I'm gonna go to Harvard Law, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be married by 28. I'm gonna have 4 kids, and I'm gonna make a ton of money. That's a great game plan. It sounds good in the locker room until you get pregnant at 19, right? Or knock on wood, something fatal happens to a family member, or all of a sudden you become the family leader at 20, 21 years old. You're not ready yet, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we still got to score a touchdown. It just looks different now. And I think a lot of families financially, if that's the approach, I think a lot of this kind of shakes out for the better. And that's my job to kind of help them think through what's available, what's possible, and how we call audibles to make sure that no matter what happens in life, whatever circumstantial changes take place, it's still a roadmap to get to where you want to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's literally like, okay, you're calling a play because you have to adjust in the moment. If I know, shoot, for me, I had a very real plan. And like you said in the beginning, I didn't get pregnant at 19, I got pregnant at 23. And I don't care what anybody says, that is a baby. You are an infant. You don't know so much about your life. And so that meant, okay, all of my plans now have to shift because I need to include another person who I am completely responsible for. And when you're thinking about taking care of you financially and then taking care of another human financially, it can just feel so intimidating, especially if your family hasn't traditionally had conversations about, okay, what does saving look like, why you should invest more when you're younger versus what investment looks like when you're, 40 plus. What are the differences? What type of risk you can, hold, what you should do and how you should set up your children. And I love the fact that more of these conversations are starting to be had in our community. However, for many folks in our community, especially in the US, it can be a little intimidating and sometimes feel like it's out of reach. So, what would you say is one myth about money that you wish more people would unlearn immediately?
It's two actually, in my word, it's two.
Okay.
In order for me to have a lifestyle I have, or start to take progressive steps, it's I need to have a lot of money right now, and it's super expensive for me to get the help that I need to accomplish what I want to get accomplished financially. Right?
Okay.
You don't need to be overly wealthy to have a lifestyle that you want. You have to build it, but you don't day one. You don't need to have millions of dollars, right, to activate a game plan or to activate professional help. Right? It's a journey to get there, but you don't need it day one. Like I work with people all the time who have just started from scratch, and quite frankly, I enjoy those a lot better because the story on the other side of that mountain is you appreciate what you have. You appreciate the starting block, but then you look back and see how far you've come. You appreciate it a lot better. Like those people need help versus someone who has $4 million day one. They don't need your help. They want your help, but they don't really need it. They can find someone else to work with you. They'll be fine anyway. But to have someone who actually need it to get over and activate a plan and start to see that plan come to life, I mean, that's a bit more refreshing for me because of the story to get to that point is a lot grander. And it's not expensive to do it. It's not something, again, because, you have such, large goals, it's going to cost your arm and leg to do it. It's not. A lot of times it's sometimes it's free if you're doing it yourself. You just got to know what to look for. But more than anything, just have a game plan and a strategy, which is my part, which is what I come in to do. That's really the secret sauce.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the strategy? Because expensive, that term is very relative, right? Like expensive to you, expensive
Yeah.
to me. It might be different, and $500 might not seem like a lot of money to someone who has a lot of money, but $500 could be all someone has to their name, like in assets and
Yeah.
in liquidity. Like it doesn't matter. Like 500 is all I have. So you've taken some Wall Street strategies and made them accessible to everyday people. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like and why it was important for you to democratize wealth instead of only chasing the ultra wealthy? Like you said, you want to help the people that are maybe starting with a little bit less, or the people that don't know any better. Like that is a very specific audience that has a very different mentality and might even be a little more challenging, because not only are you trying to um, help them financially, you have to somehow get them to shift their whole mentality and their whole energy and all their belief systems and what their granddaddy and their grandmama and their mama did. And like you have to literally help rewire their brain and their thinking to now understand what it means to invest, what it means to like strategize differently around wealth. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Man, such a loaded question. Uh, Basically, when we talk about like the relative, what's expensive, what's not expensive. I talk every when I'm talking to clients, I talk in percentages. It's not necessarily dollar amounts. We talk percentages, right? And that kind of brings everything into perspective, right? Because if you just say a flat number, right? Again, that is relative to the person you're talking to, right? But I think everyone connects with percentages a lot better, right? So in most situations in finance, in my industry, in wealth management, right? A lot of these larger firms, Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, UBS, Morgan Stanley, a lot of times they will have account minimums. And I think, then again, it's kind of going back to the myth. A lot of people think that you have to have a certain number in order to activate some professional help. Well, in some scenarios you do, depending on the firm that you try to attach yourself to. But there's a bunch of other firms out there, along with Audible Wealth, that allows some folks to start from scratch, right? So undoing that is definitely, absolutely step one of that process. And what made me want to start a firm that kind of do away with these account minimums. I remember a situation where I was new into the business, and my mom reached out. And as protective as my mom was, and it's like, my mom was the type to say, manage your business. Don't worry about how much in my account, right? She was always that type. But when she did started to, loosen up and start to share a little bit, I had to tell my mom, no, I can't help you. You don't have enough for me to help you. And fundamentally, I thought something was very wrong with that because she needed the most help out of everyone I was talking to at the time, and there was nothing I could do for her because she didn't reach that account minimum. But for the folks who do have that access, I saw what it was doing to their portfolio. I saw what it was doing for the lifestyle that they had. I saw the type of schools that they would send their kids to because they would activate different saving strategies or investment strategies to get it done. So I wasn't mad at the process or the vehicles or the strategies that was deployed. I was mad at the fact that it wasn't accessible to everybody because the people who need it the most are the ones are the ones that are boxed out. So for us, that's one of the things I wanted to overcome. How do we give or offer up the same strategies that some of the Wall Street giants have access to, but deliver it over to our community? Well, that's one of the strategies that we're able to deploy work with clients. Everything I work with, again, as I mentioned, is all percentages. So I'm not going to speak for other firms, but I'll speak for how we do things at our firm. Everything is on a range. Anything that we touch, that we work with, on an annual basis, somewhere between 1 to 2% as a fee. And most times that isn't coming out of pocket. Like the account performance is handling all that. Right. So if you're operating, if you have your $500, right, as an example, the fee on to activate a wealth planner, someone is going to take you from A to Z and walk with you every step of the journey. You think 1% of 500 for the year? Well, that's $5 is broken up over 12 months. To me, we start talking about expensive versus inexpensive. I like to think that's probably pretty inexpensive, right? And again, let's multiply the number out, right? $100,000, $1,000,000, and you can do the math on that stuff, right? It's all relative, but I try to put it in percentages that's attainable for the clients that we work with. Every client is not the same. Obviously, he's going to have some more complex situations when you talk about, athletes, entertainers, business owners. People that has a little bit more going versus a W-2. It's all contingent upon the complexity, but that's essentially how we start working with clients on the financial side.
Okay, okay. I like that, making it so that it's a percentage. Like if you wanted to do 10% of your annual income versus, oh my gosh, you're gonna take, $5,000. It's like, oh, I can't take it. But it
Yeah,
being a percentage, it makes it a lot more palatable. So it also too helps you to truly have the greatest level of impact with your target markets, plural, because you have, multiple vehicles for multiple, target markets. So it really does bring it into perspective and makes it make sense. Because for many of us who, like I said, have not been introduced to the world of finance and have some fears around it, it really does help to, like, okay, I can settle down. My little anxiety can decrease. And also, I will say what I have learned as a person who has been a head of household for quite a number of years, who has owned and currently managed multiple businesses. So one day you are, going from one thing to the other, having to multitask and do all the things, while still caring for children and still showing up as a friend, as a human, as all the things. It can become a lot. Like that responsibility as a CEO, and as a father and as a business partner, you really do carry a lot of responsibility, and that level of responsibility can be overwhelming. So, what are some of the values that you think that help to kind of keep you grounded when that pressure does start to, I know they say let her cook, but sometimes you want it to simmer down.
yeah,
So, when that pressure can feel overwhelming and the weight feels too heavy, what are some of those values that keep you level?
yeah. So the first thing I always think of is like, you asked for this. Like I asked for this. For me in particular, right? I asked to
Mhm.
be CEO, right? I asked to
Mhm.
become a businessman. I asked to have clients all over this country and in Europe, right? I asked to be
Mhm.
busy. I decided to have kids, right? I decided to have the lifestyle that I have, right? And that
Mhm.
comes responsibilities within that. So
Yeah.
that always kind of keeps me level when my phone is like blowing up, or I'm getting emails every 2 minutes. I'm getting text messages. I'm getting pulled on different projects. And hey, can you help me over here? Or there's a meeting over there. Like that kind of always that brings me back. Like this is what you asked for, what you prayed for. Now
Yeah.
don't complain about it because it's here. Right. So that reinstalls the humility that recenters me every single time. And then I kind of piece it together and I take it back to football. There's 4 quarters in the game. I'm not going to win that game in the first. So I need to kind of baby step it. What needs to get done right now? Let's give that attention. What can I punt next week or next month? And what can I push back years from now? And I kind of stage it that way. Generically, that's how it typically goes. But every now and then, like I said, we have to call a couple audibles. Sometimes the thing that was due next year, it lands in your lap right now. You need to do something about it, right? So you kind of address things and you kind of peel back the layers of what needs to get done right away and push the rest down the road. And you activate a team if you can. If you can delegate some stuff to other folks or you have some resources to help you out, I highly recommend doing so. I am not using AI as a crutch, but I think it's a resourceful thing to use to allow it to help out with scheduling, meetings or give you an agenda for the day, whatever it might be. Just kind of map it out. So I ask for it, right? And that adjusts my attitude to stuff all the time. And then from there, I can reactivate a game plan to help me make sure that I'm checking every box.
Okay. Well, the best part about everything that you just said is that I could just still hear the football working.
I feel
Like
like
like you're still like, oh wait, okay, like it's not gonna all be one in one quarter. Like how do I break it up? How do I strategize? And for I know from just my own experience in like working with wealth management firms and just planning ahead, people often feel like, oh, that's for old people. I'll get to that when I'm trying to retire, or my job, I have a 401k, or I have, my pension, or I have social security one day. And so many of us have been conditioned to just rely on whoever to manage our money, through our 9 to 5s, through our jobs. And we actually don't really understand any of it. We don't really know exactly what they're doing. There's no real strategy. There's no like vision for, you're not a part of it. You're kind of like throwing money in the bucket and hoping for the
yeah,
best. And one of the things that I've learned as I've been on that journey as well is like, oh my God, this is so easy. Like, why? Easy as far as getting the help to do it, not easy as
yeah,
far as sure your work to implement the strategy. So, who is this for? Like, and I know it kind of sounds like an obvious question, but I can promise you that whenever I talk to people about wealth management, they just feel like they are boxed out of that. That's not for them. Outside of just financial illiteracy that we struggle with in our community overall, like literally, what is the first step? Like, yes, we talk about percentages, but what does someone need to do? Like, I'm listening to this podcast right now. This sounds interesting to me. I'm in my early 30s. I feel like I have a lot of life left. I have a decent job. Like, what is the next thing to do if I want to start preserving my wealth?
yeah. So it's never too early to get started with this, and it's never too late. That's another. I guess that's another myth to kind of debunk. I'm too
Yeah.
old, or I'm not old enough. No, the time to start is always right now. Right? Anytime you get moving right away. I mean, because if I can give you anything in terms of like finance, your biggest asset is time. That is your
Mm.
biggest asset. The road ahead is your biggest asset. If someone comes to me at 22 years old and say, "Hey, I want to start to think about
Whew. You had
the
a curve.
this," right? I'm 22 years old. What the plan I build for you is going to be so much more dynamic than someone who's 62 that makes $300,000 more because I have time on my side, right? So the sooner you get started, the better.
Yep.
The number one exercise I do when I meet somebody from scratch, right? I let them dream. Tell me what you want this to look like and when you want it to happen, right? What is retirement or what is a lifestyle? Not even retirement. What is a lifestyle look like for you? Where you're not contingent, where you're not dependent on a paycheck. What does that look like? And I let them go, right? And we map it out. We talk about goals. We talk about timelines. We talk about everything. We talk about family, who we're responsible for. We talk about all those things. And from there, I work backwards. How do we get to this end goal? Well, let's look at what you have right now. Let's look at what's going on in your current scenario. What adjustments do we need to make right now to help you get to that point? In most situations, if I have enough runway, if I catch you early enough, it's not that painful because we can slowly put stuff away because I'm not in a rush, right? I have an entire 40, 50 years to get to the lifestyle that I want, 20, whatever it might be, versus like you got 8 years to figure this out for you. All right, that's a little different. All right, so So having clients think backwards for a second, that allows me to kind of put together a game plan based on what I see. Um, and you just got to stick to it. So who is this for? You fit one of three buckets. You either don't know what you're doing, you don't have the time to do it, or you don't care to do it. You need professional help. You need somebody that's going to help you out with that. If you look at your 401k and it's like, yeah, this is a different language, you probably
Like
need help.
what?
Right? Or if it's like, yo, I know how to trade. I can read the stock market. I know what the S&P is doing. I look at the Dow. I know what stocks to buy. I just don't have the time to do it because I'm busy. I have kids. I got family. You probably need to get a professional to help you out, right? Or it's just like, look, I know how to do all of that, and I have the time to do it. I just don't care to do it. You need to
So that sounds like that's everybody. Everybody could use some professional help with
pay.
managing their wealth. And I love that you said that you allow people to dream, because what does that do to a young person who can come in and say their dreams out loud to somebody who is non-biased and who can
Yeah.
actually start implementing a plan for them? I'm sure that typically will result in someone living more intentionally,
Yeah,
even from a young age. Like, just understand, like, okay, this is the goal, because so many of us weren't taught to have like a real life goal,
yeah,
and you're just kind of waiting to kick your feet up at retirement. But what is that number? What does that look like? Does that
yeah,
account for inflation? How am I going to get there? Is this job the job that's going to get me there? Like, there's so many questions that we're not even taught to ask, much less like know that there's an answer for it. So I love that it's
yeah,
that you're talking about dreaming, and not in a sense that is unrealistic or fantastical, but in a way that's like, no, tell me what it is that you think you're trying to accomplish, and let me help you get to that in a realistic way. Let's break it all the way down and talk about point A to point B, as opposed to just like, throwing it, somewhere, and hoping, throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks. And then you
yeah,
get to this point, and I remember I used to work for AT&T on the phones, and I would speak to people all the time, and they were calling in about their phones and the $2.65 on their bill. And again, expensive is relative, because I would be on the phone like, you are not wasting an hour of my time talking about 85 cents, ma'am, in Kentucky. But a lot of these people would say something, and this is what made me start thinking about my own wealth at a young age was, I'm on a fixed income. I don't got 85 cents. That was the number one line that always stuck with me. I'm on a fixed income, ma'am. I don't have $2 is a lot of money to me. And I was just like,
yeah,
what?
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
how do you work for 30 years and you're now on an income that you can barely sustain your life? And these lifestyles aren't even extravagant or lavish. It's like basic life living. Sometimes these people were calling from trailer parks. These people were calling from clearly impoverished places, and they were in poverty and struggling after working their entire lives. I was
yeah,
like, something's wrong with this picture. So I'm really grateful that there are people like you who aren't just focusing on the uber wealthy, but focusing on the real everyday people that actually need help. And there's more of them anyway. So it benefits you and everybody working with
yeah.
you to tap into the masses, because that's who really needs the help. And unfortunately, we just aren't a focus for most people.
Oh yeah, for sure. And to be frank with you, I mean, my journey to get into finance started with athletes, right? Because being a former athlete, I was teammates with, I played with, and other guys that I just kind of met along the way that you adore from an athletic perspective. They were in very like straining financial situations, and I just couldn't understand that. That just didn't make sense to me, right? In college, we would live off $1,300, $1,400 a month, which is much more different now. It's totally different now with NILs. But we would survive off $1,400 a month and be great. Then all of a sudden, you get to NFL, and now you make $150,000 a week, and you struggle. That math didn't make sense.
And
So
like,
And the math ain't mathing.
it don't make sense, right? Like we figured this out with $3,000, 30 million. Like what's going on?
Yeah.
So started it, but as I got more involved within finance and talked to more people, see different case studies, so I thought, no, this is applicable for everybody. Whether you make 20,000 a year or 20 million, you need a game plan. You need a
yep.
strategy, right? And
Yeah.
allowing people to dream a bit and look at what makes sense for the lifestyle that they want. What do you
Mhm.
envision? Well, that's all type of intrinsic motivation stuff. I can't make you wake up in the morning and go get it. That's coming from within. And if I allow you to realize that for yourself, that's gonna give me help with you doing what you need to do to make this work, right? And it's a true partnership because I have a strategy, and this is my part, and your part of the strategy is too, because you have to do stuff, you have to be an earner and be disciplined and all that stuff, and
Mhm.
it works because we're both motivated too. Another piece of this puzzle is that, and again, we talk about some underserviced communities, is I think any good financial advisor out there would be smart to allow and understand the financial scars that people walk in with. Because a
Mhm.
lot of times we deal with individuals who got scammed by a bank, or who had an extra 85 cent in that bill, which was not accurate, right? Or they talk to an aunt and uncle who say, I don't trust banks. I have my money in the Nike shoebox, right?
Under the
You have,
mattress.
you have to be sensitive to that. Is it the most efficient way? No, it's not. But I think you're good and you're tapping into the human again when you understand, like, I get it. I totally understand that.
Mhm.
And if you're able to see, how we shift that mental behavior for a second and try
Mhm.
these few things, here's how much more dynamic the plan would be, or here's some of the benefits that come along with that if you make these little shifts. And it's not gonna happen overnight. It's a million things I can have either one of y'all do that's going to be completely better than what you probably be doing your own. But you're not going to do that all in one day. It's like you going to the gym. You've never worked out before. You never had a personal trainer before. You think you're going to be right on pace with that person? No, you have to baby step it. Right. So
Yeah.
I think the good ones are able to see the human for a second and understand what are your goals, what do you want to do, consider the path that they've gone through, and help them along the way.
Yeah, it definitely, from what you have shared this entire conversation, and we started with it where you said you're human centric, you're human focused. That you can literally feel that throughout this entire conversation, in that it's okay, let me let you dream, and now we're gonna give every dollar some marching orders, because it's not how much you make, it's how you decide to spend it and use it. And we're gonna organize that in a playbook that you can then use, and then we'll call audibles when we need to, when life shifts and adjusts. So I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and what it has culminated to, and brings to mind for me, because I always tell people, if you wanted history to recount you better, you should have been better. And I know that for some folks, they don't really like that. However, I like to call a spade a spade. So I would love to hear it from your own self, from your own mouth. When it's all said and done, how do you want people, from your kids, your clients, your community, to remember Isiah the man, not just the CEO?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think I am still that quarterback, and it just looks different. And the reason I always wanted to be the quarterback, because I always wanted to be in a position to make some level of impact, and that still remains today. I think I think me being in a position, keeping the football for a second, me being in a position where I am in control of orchestrating the entire offense, the team, helping people get to a level of performance that they probably couldn't get there on their own.
Mhm.
Uh, Being part of decisions that help us get from one end of the football field to the other. I think that goes the same what we talk about in business, where I'm able to help people create financial roadmaps and get to a lifestyle that they really envision. Because who are any one of us to tell anybody that they can't have a certain lifestyle? And if it's something that's within reason, I want to make sure that you get a chance to do that. That's still me being a quarterback, right? That's still me being on a football field, going from one end of the field to the other, just doing with other clients along the way. That's also socially too, right? Which is why we just launched Audible Hope. Audible Hope Foundation is to help address poverty and help address illiteracy in a financial sense. Because again, yeah, circumstances happen, life happens, injuries happen in football, right? Unpredictability will take place, and I think a lot of individuals that are homeless, that are less fortunate, they've had some life circumstances that I don't think should define them. And Audible Hope is meant to reinstill some of that hope
Mhm.
and look at the current situation that's an obstacle, and then we call the audible for them too. So whether that's addressing, individuals that are living under overpasses or living in train stations, I want to create a level of impact that don't just provide some food or provide, some money in that moment. I want to help restructure everything about that situation. right? And I was just telling the team this. What happens if we are talking to someone who's living in a train station, right? Then all of a sudden we have a conversation with that individual and kind of help them get to a homeless shelter. And then when they get to the homeless shelter, I meet them at the homeless shelter and we start talking about skill development and putting together a resume or providing a few laptops at that shelter. Now you have email access to for job interviews. And all of a sudden I'm building clothes. So now you have clothes to walk into an interview with. These people are not mentally without. Circumstantially, they're just in a bad situation. So it's not just us handing out food or money now. We're restructuring, we're wiring everything about that situation. You go from temporary shelter or temporary living situations to skill developments to you landing a job. Now I went from not having any money to I'm an intern somewhere, or I have minimum wage somewhere. I have something going on. I didn't only just feed you that day. I just rewired the entire situation. That's the level of impact that I would love to have when it's all said and done.
I love that. I love that.
That's
Thank you so
beautiful.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then where can folks stay connected? How can they find you if they want to, not if, because they want to get started, where can they connect with you?
Yeah, so website audiblewealth.com. And if you go to our team page, you go to our contact us page. Quite frankly, on any page you go to, there is a contact button, a call to action button on those on that website, and that will get you directly over to our email inbox. If you have questions, you can reach us on our office line, which is also on the website 202-430-5227. Myself, along with other wealth advisors, are waiting to meet and greet you and learn more about the situation and figure out different ways that we can help out. That's more so on the financial wealth side, the wealth management side.
Mhm.
Audible Hopes Foundation website is under construction right now. This is a brand new adventure for us as of actually a few weeks ago to make it official. So website is under construction right now, but the same. I mean, if you wanted to get a hold of us to talk about anything on the foundation side or the wealth management side, go to audiblewealth.com and we'll greatly help you out.
Excellent, excellent. You can stay connected with me everywhere, all over at Alechia Reese. Y'all know my mama got excited when it was time to spell my name. It is spelled Alechia. And you can stay connected with Triggered at Triggered AFPC on Instagram and Triggered AF Podcasts everywhere else.
And you can stay connected with me at the Dani Bourdeau on Instagram. And don't forget to go to justthrivenow.com so that you can join our community so we can move from surviving to thriving. And you can also stay up to date with whenever we're coming to a city near you with live podcast tapings, with events, with socials, with mixers, all the things that we have coming up under our Just Thrive Now umbrella. Thank you so much, Isiah, for joining us. Please share this with your friends, share this with your mom, share this with everyone. Like he said, it is never too early or never too late to start managing your wealth. It can be $5, it can be $5 million. If you have a little money, you got a little wealth, okay? So we want to make sure that we are creating plans and implementing strategies so that we can all live a long and fruitful life. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.